Okay, y'all, this is part two from my first video. Okay, now, me with CPS, when he said he was going to be one step ahead of me by the time I went to school that day, y'all, when I got to school, to trade school, because I went to trade school at that time, I was 16, because I couldn't advance the next grade in school, because it was frustrating in school. And I got so frustrated, but I can go to technical college and get a degree and get, a job real quick, at 16. I was like, cool, I'll take that. So I did. My girlfriend, whose parents were foster care parents, she said, you want to come spend a night? Maybe spend the weekend? I said, yeah. So she called her mom. Her mom says, let me call the people. She goes, Mom, we're going to go over there for lunch. So we went to CPS, which is Child Protective Services in Crowley, Louisiana. And y'all, these people told me that he had called. Yeah, he had called. Foster dad had called and said that they were one step ahead of me. And so, y'all, they had foster care people had to go get all my stuff, all my clothes and stuff. And because I didn't want to go back over there. Did not want to go back over there and be in that house. I did not want to step back in that house. 1, because of my brother. 2, because of their son. 3, because of their son-in-law. Okay? So, from the age of 4 until it was my 16th birthday that day. When I went to my girlfriend's house, y'all, these people well, first, let me tell y'all about the foster care people. I went over there, put this down so I can talk to y'all. Well, shoot, it's not gonna let me do it. I went over there to talk to these people. And y'all, they were nice, except for they told me that the people that I was living with had said a bunch of stuff about me. And I said, well, let me tell you about you. I said, how about you 4 years old? From the time you're 4 years old until I just turned 16, I said, they tell you that you get up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, you unload the dishwasher, you make a pot of coffee, put it on a platter, put their coffee cups on a platter, cream and sugar, pour their coffee in the cups, bring it to them in bed. Okay? You talking about a 4-year-old. Okay? Learn to wash a load of laundry and dry. Okay? Pull weeds out the garden. Okay? This is how I grew up in foster care. All right? Y'all, some of y'all might say, oh, that's nothing. That's not. At 4 years old, you going to wake your child up, tell them, make you a pot of coffee, bring it to you in bed? No. So, after that, I had to go in the room, their oldest daughter's room, wake her up about 3, 4 times, make her some coffee milk. Mind y'all, coffee, 2 big tablespoons, maybe 2 tablespoons and a half of sugar, and some milk. Stir it up real good and bring it to her for her to drink, to get up and get ready for work. Every day until I was 16. Okay? Now, mind you, we had our little adventures where we would sneak out the house and go to the store and buy bubble gum and stuff like that with loose change that we found around the house and stuff. Oh, but we were stealing. Got our asses beat. I got my ass beat so bad it was with a belt buckle. That lady said she would never do it again. Never touch me with a belt buckle. I stopped her. They called CPS on her. The school did. Because they seen the bruises on me. So, I was scared. When they came to the door, I shut the door. They would say, who is it? I was like, nobody. They knocked again. I was like, Oh, God, I'm in so much trouble. I knew I was going to be in so much trouble. They came in, and I kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't call them. I didn't call them. I didn't say nothing. I didn't say anything. I was crying, y'all. I was in 4th grade when this happened to me. They beat me with a belt buckle. CPS turned around and said I deserved every lick that was given to me with that belt buckle. Okay. So whenever me and my girlfriend was sitting there and we heard the whole report, what they were saying, how I deserved it and all this and that, I told them, I said, if you don't let me go spend the night at my girlfriend's house because her parents are foster parents, I said, you're going to find me on the side of the road with a sign pinned to my shirt that says CPS gives children to people that lets their son-in-law and their son and their siblings molest them. She just looked at me. She said, what are you talking about? I said, oh, that's not the only thing they did. They beat me. Yeah, they beat me. They put me on rice. They put me on outside so everybody can laugh and make fun of me in broad daylight in my night clothes. So they can laugh and pick at me. I said, oh yeah, they bullied me. They really bullied me. And then they let their kids and their son-in-law molest me. And if I didn't have sex with them as a young child, they would go lie on me. And I'd get my ass beat again. She said, what are you talking about? So I told the lady everything. She says, I'm going to grant you this 3-day weekend, but after that, if you're going to go to a girl's home. I said, fine. But if you don't let me go, everything I've done told you is going to be on that piece of paper. And if I'm killed on the side of the road, it's all your fault. So I went to my girlfriend's, and y'all, her parents opened their door to me with open arms. And she said, I heard it's your 16th birthday. I said, yes, ma'am, it sure is. And she said, Tina's going to take you out. I said, she's taking me out? Out where? She said, y'all going to go to the movies and everything. And y'all, she said, y'all going to go, have some fun. I said, oh, okay. And I didn't understand the extent of going out at that time because I didn't understand. I'd never been anywhere. I never got to spend a night I spent a night at one of the girls' house, which was a foster child, but it happened there too. So, anyway, when we went out that night, everybody was giving me money. The mom, she permed my hair. She went and got me some clothes. We went and got clothes. I had the best time. And I celebrated my birthday the whole weekend. My sister, I call her my sister now. Her and her sister, I call her my sister. She was like, how much money you got? I was like, girl, I got a wad of money. I never had this. I never in all my life had a wad of money. I said, if my mama ever sent me any money or anything, I said I wouldn't see it. I'd just get the card. I wouldn't see anything. So it was really, really good to, be able to live somewhere where I can, be stress free. So we went out and we went out to eat. We got her girlfriends and she was introducing me to them and everything. And they were like, girl, you never been out? I was like, no, you're going to have fun. Girl, yeah, I'm going to tell y'all. When I say drank, I drank so much till I threw up. I threw up so much. And it was so funny. Then when we got home, when we got home, we was throwing the cans out on the way back to the house. Was throwing the cans out on the side in the ditch. Sunday when we got to go to church that next morning, that was Saturday night. We went out Friday, Saturday night. When we got up Sunday morning, go to church. When we come back, Dad tells us, he said, oh, by the way, he said, y'all can go pick up all them cans y'all drank last night put them in a bag. He said, we'll bring them to the things and y'all get y'all some more money for next time. Just looked at my girlfriend. I was like, what? She started laughing. She said, Dad, she's never did anything like that. He was like, I see. And y'all, I got so drunk. I couldn't undress myself. I just looked at her mom and I said, Mom, can you help me put my nightgown on? Because I can't do it. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Y'all, I had the best birthday ever. My 16th birthday was just so awesome. It was so awesome. And then after that, whenever a weekend turned out into a week to 2 weeks, I never realized, that I was still there. I was just going to school and coming back, And they just looked at me and they was like, have you noticed you haven't left here yet? And I was like, no. And then I was like, yeah, now did you say I realize it? And they were like, would you like to stay here? And I was like, yes, I would. I really would. I said, oh my God, I've never had so much fun. We went on trips, everything. I've never been, vacationing like that, and going out and doing the things that we did as a family, So I stayed. And then a few months passed and I met this guy through a friend. And it was his cousin. And we slept together. And I got pregnant. Well, y'all, I had a daughter 9 months later. And I had her when I was 17. And it didn't work out between he and I. He had also got another girl pregnant at the time. And he had told me he had wanted a boy. And I said, well, I'm having a girl. And y'all, back in 87, I never heard of ultrasound. So I didn't know what we was having. But I was insisting that I was going to have a girl. And guess what? I have a beautiful daughter. And she's very beautiful. She looks like her dad and me. He had a boy with his wife because he married that girl. And how I found out that he had got this girl pregnant was we had went to a football game. And they said, you're here? And I'm like, yeah, why? Well, he's here. And I'm like, okay. And they was like, and he's here with the other girl he got pregnant. They announced it in church that they were getting married. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So he would send his little minions to come and check on me to see if I was really pregnant. I mean, I had a big belly. And I'm like, you know what? Y'all can stop coming by here and stop checking on me. I really am pregnant. I am having this baby. And he don't have to worry about me. If he was worried about me, he would have been with me. But since he wanted a boy, he got what he wanted, and he chose his life. So, and I chose mine, a single mother. There was nothing I could do to change his mind. So I had my daughter, and I moved to Sulphur, Louisiana. I went to live with my nanny. And after that, my nanny got attached to my daughter and started to raise her and told me, you're young, you're a teenager, go live your life. And I was like, okay, I will. And I let her raise my daughter. And she did a wonderful job with my child. And my child knows who I am. She knows I'm her mother. She's grown up. She's a mother herself, and she had a boy. Her firstborn was a boy. And then I married my first husband. And had 4 other children. A boy, a girl, and then a boy. So, but my moral of this story is I don't trust CPS as far as I could throw them. Because when I had all my kids, even though my nanny was raising my first daughter, when I had my 4 other kids, I wouldn't let them go spend a night in nobody's house unless they could speak and say if somebody was touching them or if they could call me on the phone to come and get them. I was a very overprotective mother at that point. because I knew what happened to me as a child, and I did not want that to happen to them. Now, if their friends could come and spend a night at the house, that was fine with me. I didn't care. Come to the house in the night. I don't care. But as far as my children going to your house, that was out of the question. I had to wait until they were old enough and could tell me, if anything bad had happened to them. And I wanted to know as a mother. And, I shielded them. And that's how my son knows I would never call CPS on none of my kids, because being in the system sucked at my age from 4 to 16. It sucked, because when someone does you wrong and teaches you stuff that you should not have known about until you were a teenager, like 16, 17 years old, I think that's why my first marriage failed, because I was looking more for like what had happened to me, and my marriage failed. Even though it failed, it was due to also because we lost a child at 2 months and 26 days. But when I met my second husband, I had been through 2, 3 guys, and it only lasted 2 months, and I was telling them, after 2 months, you can forget it. I'm packing up. I'm leaving. You don't want to be with me. I can't have kids. I'm fixed. I had not a full hysterectomy. I had like I guess you call it a partial. I'm not sure what you call it. I had a tube ligation. I guess that's what you call it, tube ligation, where my tubes are cut and tied and burned. They're so cut, tied, and burned that they never grew back. They never came untied or nothing. And when I met my husband 17 years ago, he was like, I'm going to break that cycle. And I was like, no, you're not. And he was like, yes, I am. No, you're not. Because I told him, I said, I'm not going to remember when we get together. I'm not going to remember when our anniversary is. None of that stuff. So when it came time to our 3rd year being together, he runs in the kitchen and he was like, do you know what today is? And I was like, said, just another day. He said, no, it's our anniversary. I said, okay. It's 2 years. And he was like, no. He said, I told you I was going to break that cycle. It's 3. I was like, oh my God, you did. You really did. He said, I told you I was going to break that cycle. That's how, how my trust issue was. He had a trust issue too with women. So we stayed together 14 years. And we may have split up once for about a month. And got back together. Because our love for each other surpassed everything else. And we don't even count that month apart at all. So for he and I, 14 years, we had a hurricane that was coming, and we were supposed to get married. Okay. And we were buying a house. We were going to stay in the apartment. He wanted to stay in the apartment that we were in. And I told him, I said, no, we're not. We're not staying in this apartment. Just got my car. No tree's going to fall and hit my car. I said, we're not staying here. So he left his truck. We took my car and we went all the way to Maryland, to Baltimore, Maryland. And we went up there and we stayed. Our person that was doing, or our broker for the house, she calls my husband and tells her where we're at. She was like, hey, that's where I'm from. She said, you can get married up there if you want. Because my credit wasn't good enough to be, for the house down here. So we can get married up there. He was like, I'm going to keep this for about 3 seconds when we get off the phone. So his cousin looks at him, and then she looks at me, and she said, I wonder what he's talking about. I said, we getting married. She said, you sure? I said, mm-hmm. We get married. So he gets off the phone, and she asks him, she says, Danton, she said, what was that about? You're going to hold it for 3 seconds. He said, didn't you hear her, what she just said? And she just looked at him, she said, how did you know? I said, because I just know it. I just knew it. So we got our license, and the very next day, we got married. And his cousin and his best friend stood in for us for our wedding. And it's going to be 3 years in October that we've been married. And it's going to be total 17 years altogether that we've been together. So, but, you know, now that I look back on the childhood that I had, my children's childhood years, I'm glad that I sheltered them the way that I did. Now my daughter, my oldest daughter, I wish she could have met her dad before he passed away. I didn't know he had passed away. I didn't know how to bring up him in a conversation to her. She had got aggravated and said, you know, when she had showed me a picture of him and asked me, was this him? I was like, yeah. If his name is such and such, then it is. And she was like, yes, it is. And I'm like, well, that's your dad. You found your dad. She was like, well, that would have been nice to know years ago because he's dead. And I was like, oh my God. So I contacted his cousin, who I'm friends with from back down east. And she was like, yeah, he died a few years back. And I'm like, okay, what from? Drugs. He chose that life, y'all. He chose a life. He chose his wife. He chose his continued life. So I was on the phone with my daughter, you know, while talking to his cousin on my tablet, on my laptop. And I told my daughter, I said, look, you can be mad at me all you want. You can think that it's me, but it's not. He wanted a boy and you were a girl. He married his wife because he knew she was having a boy and I was having a girl. So he chose his life and his path. And you and I were on our own. And she was like, okay, thank you. So, you know, I hoped, you know, that, you know, it kind of soothed the Band-Aid, but, you know, there's nothing that, you know, could soothe, you know, a daughter not knowing her dad. Because I know how I felt whenever I got to see my dad maybe. I don't remember my dad except for when I would go to eat fried chicken with him. And I was little. So he had passed away whenever I gave birth to my son, to my second child. And my mama never told me. So that's the difference between me and my mother. My mother knew my dad passed away and didn't tell me because my aunt said she didn't want me to hemorrhage to death. And I was like, you can't hemorrhage if you have a child natural. Between me and my daughter, I didn't know her dad passed away. I didn't keep up with family like that, you know. So, but I still, you know, keep in contact with everybody. And she met her, I think she was supposed to meet her baby sister on her dad's side. So as long as them two girls are talking, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. You know, at least she has some ground to where she can meet her sister and talk to her sister. As far as her brother is concerned, I was told that he is living the same path his father did. And that's not good. So she sips coffee. So I am going to end this live with this. If someone ever accuses you of doing something and you know you didn't do it, and you have a good reason why, tell you a story. Because I just did. And it helps releases anything on your mind that you may have. Y'all, it is so horrible over here in Louisiana right now. The weather. It is chilly in my house. But I think it's because my house sits up off the ground a little bit. But that's okay. That's okay. I need to get off here, call my nephew, see where he's at, and I'll get back with y'all. I'm going to download this. This is part 2 of Why I Don't Call CPS. And a little bit background story on me. Bye, y'all.